Hello everyone, welcome. This week we are going to be going over small group communication. Now, as we covered in the very beginning of the semester, small group communication is between 3 and 8 people, so we're within that level. And now that's what we're mainly focusing on. Now realize there can be larger groups and a lot of this can fit in a lot of different areas, which is what we're going to be talking about today, but we're focusing on the 3 to 8. So before we get started, what is a small group? So a small group is a collected group of individuals that have a common purpose, just like a community. They're coming together for a common purpose, and they're interdependent. That being said, they are also people who organize certain rules together. That being said, they are people who are able to work together, and they're able to be independent, but they also depend on each other. So, if someone is in charge of, let's say, the PowerPoint, and someone's in charge of the outline, or someone's in charge of marketing, and someone's in charge of sales, and someone's in charge of HR, different things like that, they all rely on each other to get the job done. But their job is interdependent. So, their job is independent, meaning they do not need everyone else to finish their job. But parts of their job they do. So think of a group project. If you're doing a group speech, you have a PowerPoint, an outline, all of that due. One person is probably going to head up the PowerPoint. One person is probably going to head up the outline. Everyone will send the person the outline. But if people do not do their job to send the person the outline, they can't get their job done. But if the person with the outline does not do their job and does not compose the outline, or say with a PowerPoint, then that group project can end up failing. But yet, if everyone does their job correctly, you send it, you don't really have to worry about it. They're going to do their job, you're going to do your job, you work together a little bit, and you're good to go. You're independent. But if all of a sudden that person's failing at their job, you got to figure out how to work it out, so that's not going to happen. Okay? Oh, and finally, they perceive themselves as a group. They don't say, oh, I'm this person. Oh, I'm this person. Okay, they say, we are this group. Okay, they might be the members of the group, but they always say, oh, I'm this person. I'm part of this group. Okay? Now, the team. You need to know what is the specific purpose, what are the roles to the team, and everything that you have is clearly defined. You should be doing this. You should be doing this. You should be doing this. I was doing an activity this time, but it's hard with an online class. But it really shows that group roles and identifying who is what is very important. Everything that the group is doing needs to be focusing on the exact purpose, and the content all focuses on the thesis statement. So in the very beginning, everything that you're doing is all focusing back to the purpose of your idea. Just like a speech, everything should always be tying back to your thesis statement. Okay? Now, with a group, there are small group stages. So first, it's opening. You get to know everyone. Hi, my name is this. This is why we're here. This is our problem. Blah, blah, blah. And then you do feedback work. Okay, we know the problem. We know who everyone is. So now, this is the problem. Well, let's start thinking of solutions. Or let's start thinking of what we need to do. Or why are we here? Are we here just to get a grade? So let's start working on that. You do this, you do this, you do this. You assign exactly what needs to be done. Then you move on to the business. Now, the business is kind of longer. It's actually getting the work to be done. These two, then once you have some business, then also you might have to identify what's getting done. Okay, these kind of go hand in hand if you have to constantly be going back and doing more to get the job done, especially if it's a bigger project. Okay, the business can also be presenting the information, talking to the client, working out the conflict in between the two people that you're working with, whatever it is. And then it's the feedback. So you're done with the business. Now you're going to look, okay, let's look back. What was successful? What was not successful? What would we keep? What would we change? And you reflect and you evaluate what you're doing. And then finally, it's closing, the group departs. Now, if you're in a workforce and you are on a committee that constantly meets, you might depart until you have the next client, or until you have the next event, or until you have the next project, or different things like that. Then it just kind of goes back up. And then the opening, okay, this is our new client, so what we need to do, and then it all just circles back around. If you ever do a group project for a class, it could easily be closing, you depart, class is over, you'll probably never see those people again unless it's passing on campus. When you look at formats, there are 4 different formats of groups that we can do. So first is what King Arthur made famous, the round table. So when King Arthur made this famous, he had this round table idea, meaning everyone is equal at the table. Everyone has an equal part. Okay? This is the best way for brainstorming, the round table. Next is the panel. So the panel is you have your experts up here, okay? And you have the audience members. Now the experts are able to talk to the audience. The audience is able to talk to the experts though. Experts can talk to the experts themselves. I always tell people to think of Shark Tank when you think of a panel. The 5 sharks up here, and then you have the 1 to however many people presenting their idea. Okay, so they will present to the sharks will talk to them, the sharks will talk to each other. Hey, I want to go on this deal with you, or why are you doing that deal? That's a bad idea. Different things like that. So everyone's able to talk to each other. But the difference between this one and round table, both of them you're able to talk to each other. Everyone talks to everyone. But with a panel, you have experts. Just like a round table, the sharks aren't going to all meet. But once the sharks make the deal with the people, then they're probably going to sit at a round table where they're all equal and they're all talking about ideas. But here you have your experts, and then the audience members are different things like that. And then you have the symposium. This is where normally where you have an expert come out, and this is a lot of times keynotes. You have a speaker come out, blah, 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 blah. Okay, they speak, they do stuff, and then they go. No one asks questions, no one does anything, they speak, they go, they sit, and it's done. Okay, you might have multiple people doing it, you might just have one. So you could have 1 circle up here, you could have 10. But the thing is, the panel members up here, they're not talking to each other. Audience is not asking questions. Now, combining the panel and the symposium, you have a forum. Now think of, a lot of times this could easily be when you think of a town hall. Town halls could also be a panel, but think of a town hall, normally what happens is the people up here will be talking, and they'll say, do you have questions from the audience? And then the town hall people will say, hey, I want this, and they'll say, okay, yeah, we'll try that. And they kind of go back and forth. A lot of times in town hall, they might talk to each other to be like, oh, that's a good idea, and just little side comments, but it's not a lot of times like panels, where it's kind of more of a round table. This is just, they might make side comments like, oh my gosh, this person's up here again. Okay? So the difference between a panel and a forum is the panel members talk to each other, whereas the forum members really don't talk to each other. Okay? This could be where one person gives a speech, Q&A, goes, next person comes up, speech, Q&A. And then the difference between a forum and a symposium is the forum, the audience is able to speak back to the main members up here, and symposium, they're not. Now, moving forward, we're going to look at group powers, okay? So when we're looking at group powers, you're wanting to make sure you know the definition of power. So it's the ability to control one's behaviors, okay, or to control the behaviors of others. There are 5 main powers we're going to be looking at. I have a mixture between a sitcom example and a real world example. So I hope between these 2 examples, you're able to remember these 5 powers. So first, let's start with legitimate. So legitimate is having power. You're the boss. You legitimately have that power because you are the boss. You are in charge. You have the title of director or manager or whatever. So if you work somewhere that has a manager, they legitimately are your boss. They can legitimately fire you, do different things like that. An example of that would be Michael Scott off The Office. No matter how good or bad of a boss he is legitimately the boss. Now, we all know he's not the best boss, but it makes some great and hilarious television. Now, a real world example of that would be President Donald Trump. And no matter if you like President Trump or not, he legitimately is the president. He legitimately has power. That is the same idea for President Obama. Same idea for President Bush, for President Clinton, for President Bush, for blah, blah, blah. Everyone there. Okay, same idea for Queen Elizabeth, for Putin, for all of them. They legitimately have that spot. This could be the president of the university. This could be your boss at work. They legitimately have that power. They might have been given that power due to another type of power they have, one of the other 5, but they legitimately have this power. So they have the title, they have the power, legitimate power. Now the next one is reverent. So reverent power would be someone who's trusted and they're respected. Okay, they earn that power because they're trusted and respected. A lot of people could argue that Donald Trump has that, and I would say for at least 30% of the U.S. he has that 30%. The other 20% who voted for him was probably, the lesser two evils, and then the rest might have voted for Clinton, okay? And again, this is just all me talking out loud, okay? But, a lot of people believe in Trump, and they trust Trump. So that would be reverent power. Some people don't, and some people do not trust him, they do not respect him, okay? So he does not have that power with them. But other people do, so he does have that power. So that's just me trying to explain that. People can have multiple forms of power. My TV example for this would be Tina Fey's character off of 30 Rock, which is Liz Lemon. Okay, she gets in a lot of bad situations because her coworkers really trust her to do a lot of stuff, and they put themselves in bad situations, but she then has to go rescue them and get them out of their stupid situation that they put themselves in. And a real world example of that would be George Washington. Like almost any president, as already discussed, they have some form of reverent power because people trust them, people believe who they are, and that's why they're getting into that form of power. Now, if you're a dictator, you're not going to have as much trust as a democracy. You easily can, but you might not. So George Washington is our real world example. Now, for our third one is reward power. This is someone who gives you gifts, someone who gives you bonuses. They reward you somehow. Your boss could do this by giving you a Christmas bonus or threatening to take it away. Okay, so it's a reward power. An example of this would be Amy Poehler's character, Leslie Knope, off of Parks and Recreation. Okay, if you watch the show, you know that she gives tons of gifts. She has a gift day for every single day of the year, for every single person she knows, even her male person. Okay, so with that, you are able to see that she gives people everything, and then in turn they really want to do a lot for her. They always want to give her gifts back. They always want to follow her. They always want to do things. And our two real world examples of this would be Oprah and Ellen. I know it might be hard to see Ellen right now, but Ellen and Oprah are the two examples of this. So looking at these two, they give a lot of gifts. So does a lot of talk show hosts such as Jimmy Fallon and different things like that. Jimmy Kimmel does not, and he's even said that he's not going to do it on his show because now people expect it. Hey, him and Ellen were talking about that on his show one day. But these two women, they give a lot. So if Oprah comes up to you and says, "Here, have a car," and you accept it, and she says, "Hey, could you do this favor for me? Could you say this one thing?" More than likely, you're going to be like, "Oh yeah, I'll say it." Okay? They have that power over you because they gave you something, so you feel like that exchange is going to happen. Now, this also goes in with social exchange theory. If she gives you an apple pie and then says, "Go jump off a bridge," is that reward enough for that social exchange to actually go jump off the bridge? Or is she giving you a car? What is enough for you to go do what she's asking? Okay, so it doesn't always work, but reward power is a huge form of power. Now our next power is coercion, cohesive power, and we're going to talk more about this with persuasion, but this is when someone does it over fear and threats. This person threatens people. This person makes them try to threaten their job or threaten their life, or people are doing things for them because they fear them. An example of that would be Phoebe. A lot of times, she has a lot, but Phoebe off of Friends, she threatens people a lot, and they do what she says because all the friends off of Friends are scared of Phoebe at points because she's kind of a scary person. Okay? And the real world example would be Adolf Hitler. Now another example could be Putin, it could be Kim Jong-un, it could also be any dictator or any world leader who was trying to take over the world in some form. That could be an example of a coercion leader. Okay? And then finally we have an expert. So our expert is someone who's an expert in the field. They know their stuff, they're very skilled, they're very trained. They could have went to school for a very long time, or they could have been doing this for a very long time. So they're an expert in that field. They're very smart in that field. An example of that would be Sheldon Cooper. He's an expert in physics. He loves numbers, he loves math, and he knows physics, and he thinks he's smarter than everyone else, and a lot of times he is. A little side note, I actually got to meet him in person in New York a couple years ago. So it was pretty cool. Now back to this. So Sheldon Cooper would be a real world example. Another one, or a real world example, would be Albert Einstein. Now this could be your professors. This could be any doctors that you go to. They're an expert in that field, so they are very knowledgeable. And more than likely, if you go to a doctor who's an expert in diseases and he says that you have leukemia, you're not gonna be like, no, I know what I'm talking about. I don't have leukemia. And he's gonna be like, no, you do. I've done this a lot. Okay, you're normally not gonna argue with them unless you also know that field pretty well. Now moving on, we're gonna look at group ideas. Okay, so with group ideas, there are certain rules to brainstorming. First of all, you don't need to criticize people. You need to make sure that every idea is great. Because if you start criticizing people, they're not going to want to give you their idea, and they're just going to shut down, and you're going to lose all that ideas. Because the more ideas, the better. You want to strive for quantity. When you strive for quantity, that is great because you're getting more and more ideas, which can lead you to then have all these hundreds of ideas, combine them, and then extend them. So these hundreds of ideas can be combined and extended to 20 bigger ideas, and then you can finally narrow it down to 1 to 2 wild and crazy ideas. They always say shoot for the stars because you'll land on the moon, and that's pretty great. Okay? So you want to have big, wild ideas. And then a big thing to do is avoid groupthink. If you don't know what groupthink is, this is when everyone is being yes men. So everyone in the group is saying, hey, we should do this. Oh yeah, we should do this. Yeah, we're going to do this and this and this. And all of a sudden you're done and you're like, wow, we only met for 10 minutes and we're going to have a great group project. A lot of times, that's a group project that's going to fail because you don't have someone playing devil's advocate. You need to have someone who is looking at things and talking about group ideas and why they can improve, how they can do better. I always tell my students that if you have an idea, picture it as a tower. And then people are throwing their criticisms at your idea. So you present your tower, and then what they're going to do is they're going to start throwing wrenches. They're going to start trying to throw wrenches into your plan, right? And if they throw so many and your idea is good enough where you're just being able to be like, oh no, we already have that. That wrench doesn't need to be here, or that needs to be gone, that needs to be gone. And you're able to dodge these criticisms and to say, no, we already have that. We don't need that block to be added into ours. But if you don't do that, then what's going to happen is when they throw all these things and you don't have something to defend these criticisms coming off because you had groupthink, then your tower is going to look very holy. And what happens to a holy tower, not including a church and all that, so that's not what I'm saying. A holy tower is going to have a lot of holes which will make it crumble. So your idea will fall and it will fail. So you need to make sure that you do not have groupthink and someone is playing devil's advocate. They're always looking at the good and bads of each idea. And then you have personal growth. Every time you have a group project, you're going to grow somehow. For some reason, you're going to do something and it's going to make you learn. You're going to have something and you're going to be able to grow as a person. And you're going to help each other of them grow. Sometimes it could be for different groups. It could be an Alcohol Anonymous group. You're growing for some reason. You're going to have an intervention, different groups like that, or just a group project. All these groups, they help you grow somehow. And then you're going to make sure that you are sharing information with groups, and there's different forms. You can do that with focus groups, you can do that with educational groups or learning groups, and different things like that, or you can have your group projects. And then finally, we're going to do the problem-solving sequence. So when you have a problem, what you need to do first is define and analyze the problem. So you're going to say, I have an issue with this. Once you figure out what the exact problem is, not everything, and we're going to talk about that, how to do this a little bit more when we go over group conflict, but how to analyze the problem. Once you have the specific problem, then try to say, okay, this is the criteria for what we're going to be talking about. Okay, no hitting below the belt, no doing any of that. And then you're going to identify, how can we fix this? Here's a couple different ideas. Then once you do that, you're going to look at all the ideas and pick the best one. Once you pick the best one, you're going to test it out. Now here's the key a lot of people miss. They might do all of this, but they're going to test it out. It doesn't work, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is awful. Our idea's not working, and they just keep on moving with life. But if that happens, you need to come back up here and just start all over. Okay? Either you already know the problem, or with the idea, the problem could have shown itself more to be able to clearly distinguish it more. Then you might come back up here to identify more problem or more solutions for the problem. So it might be a circle in here, it might be a larger circle for this. So you need to make sure that you do that. Now, like any week, if you have any questions, let me know. Don't forget that you have some items due this upcoming week, just like every single week. Make sure you're staying on top of it. I know it's getting close to the end of the year, so since it's getting close to the end of the year, you're going to have a lot of your big ticket items due. Make sure you're staying on top of that and you're not going to get overwhelmed. If you have any questions or you're confused about something, then feel free to email me and I will always be here to reply. Other than that, I hope that you have a phenomenal day. Bye, guys. I guess I don't want to say bye. Let's try this again.